Hello, I am Dr. Aizaz from medicovisual.com, and in today's visual lecture we will talk about that what are the sources of acids and bases in our body, from where the acids and base come in our body. So, as we are discussing the concepts of pH and acid base balance, it is important to understand that what are the factors that risk the change in pH. Of course, if too much acid is coming in our body, in our blood, that might risk the decrease in pH. Similarly, if too much base is coming in our blood, that might risk the increase in pH. So acids and bases coming in our body or being produced in our body, in our blood, they are the risk factor that can increase or decrease the pH. So we must understand that from where they are coming. Now out of these two, this one is most important, and you will see in a moment why. Okay, let me tell you. The reason is that mostly in most of the people, the acids are produced in much higher quantity as compared to the base. So how the acids are produced and what are the sources of different acids? Let's try to understand. Now, let's suppose here we have a cell. It could be any cell. Okay, now cells, they consume glucose, right? And from glucose, through a multi-step pathway called glycolysis, they convert glucose into pyruvic acid. Now of course pyruvic acid, as it releases the proton, the H positive ion, it is quickly buffered and it is converted into pyruvate. That's why in textbooks mostly you see written it in the form of pyruvate. Now what I mean by buffer, we will see the buffer in the upcoming lectures. I think next lecture is on buffer, yeah. So we will see that what I mean by pH buffers, but for now understand that whenever an acid releases H positive ion, this is a direct risk. In not direct risk, actually it will directly decrease the pH. So buffers, what they do is that they quickly pick up this H positive, and now this H positive is not free. No, it is not freely lying in the blood, so pH is not drastically decreased. So that is why there is some resistance to decrease in or increase in pH due to the presence of pH buffers, that we will discuss later. But anyhow, first understand that from glucose, pyruvic acid is being produced. This is one type of acid that is being produced in our body. Now, pyruvic acid is then converted into acetyl-CoA, and then this acetyl-CoA goes through a cycle called TCA cycle, right? And during this process, lots of CO2 is being produced. Lots of CO2 is also produced. Carbon dioxide is also produced. Now, normally this is happening. This is the oxidative process. Here oxygen is required, and then there is another process. We will not go into detail. Electron transport chain, that is also oxidative process. This is what happens normally, but sometimes if oxygen supply is less, or if the demand is very high, let's suppose you are exercising and there is very high demand of energy, we need a lot of energy. Of course energy will also be produced in the form of ATP and NADH and FADH2, but along with that, of course, pyruvic acid is being produced. Now the point is that if lots of energy is required, then along with pyruvic acid, this pathway is overwhelmed. So this pyruvic acid may then be converted into lactic acid, which is another acid. So lactic acid and pyruvic acid, two acids we have discussed here. Now this was about the carbohydrates. What about the fats and the proteins? So here if we draw another similar diagram, another cell, now fatty acids from fats, usually fatty acids are formed, and fatty acids, they then convert to acetyl-CoA, acetyl-CoA molecules, and then this acetyl-CoA again goes into TCA cycle, and this will produce CO2. Now I am again and again mentioning CO2 here, but I will tell you what is the significance of CO2 in a moment. Now here another problem, that if this process is overwhelmed, for example we do not have there is something called oxaloacetate. If we do not have sufficient oxaloacetate, or even if this process is too much overwhelmed, then this acetyl CoA cannot go into TCA cycle, or if it goes to TCA cycle, still we have lots of acetyl CoA left, and those excess acetyl CoA, that is funneled to another pathway which produces something else, and that something else is actually ketones, the keto acids. So keto acids, for example, beta-hydroxybutyrate. Yeah, so keto acids. So keto acids are another type of acids. So three types of acids we have discussed up till now: the pyruvic acid, lactic acid, and keto acids, for example beta-hydroxybutyric acid, right? So this is about the fats. Now if we talk about proteins, from proteins we get amino acids, and from amino acid can be converted into different types of amino acid, can be converted into one of the substrate of the TCA cycle, acetyl CoA, or some other substrate that I will not go into detail right now. So they will also produce CO2. But why I am saying again and again CO2? CO2 is a gas, or is it an acid? Okay, I will tell you in a moment, but before that, let me tell you something else about amino acids. Amino acid, if we talk about another important amino acid, okay, let me show you two important amino acids here. Let's suppose, okay, this is NH2. I am drawing an amino acid for you, CH and C double bond O O H. Now here this is the side chain of this amino acid, and here in this side chain it is having CH2, and then it is having something very interesting here. This is S, and along with that we have H. Now this S is sulfur. Now there is another amino acid, let me draw that one as well, having very similar backbone. You know, the basic structure of amino acids, all amino acids is same, they differ only by the side chain. So here the side chain is a bit different. Here it is containing again sulfur, and then along with sulfur it is also containing this group, methane group, right? So you see we have these sulfur containing amino acids. Now sulfur containing amino acids can produce through a multi-step pathway another acid that is called sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid. Now this is very dangerous acid, it's a very strong acid. So it is quickly buffered, so much so that in textbooks you will see it is written as sulfatine. It is not written as H2SO4. You will hardly see written as H2SO4. Well, actually whole this reaction actually produces sulfuric acid, because this H positive and another two basically protons are released, and then this single sulfate ion is also released, but the protons that are produced, they are quickly buffered. Again, I do not want to go too much into the biochemistry of metabolism of amino acids, but anyhow please understand that these amino acids, by the way, what is the name of these amino acids? This is cysteine, a sulfur containing amino acid, and this is methionine, another sulfur containing amino acids. So both of these amino acids through multi-step pathway, they actually produced, as a net result, they produced sulfuric acid. So we have seen how many acids up till now: pyruvic acid, lactic acid, beta-hydroxybutyric acid, which is a keto acid. Then we have talked about the sulfuric acid, right? So along with that, some amino acids, not amino acids, some proteins have phosphate attached with them. They are called phosphoproteins. And these phosphoproteins, what they do is that they form H3PO4, which is phosphoric acid. So even phosphoric acid is being produced in our body. Now, along with that, one of the most important structure of your body, what is that? DNA and RNA. DNA and RNA, they contain what we call as nucleotide. And if you look at the structure of nucleotide, if I draw the basic structure, this is the ribose or deoxyribose sugar. Then we have the base, nucleotide base, and here you will see that we have PO4. Now usually at physiological range it is in the form of PO4 negative, but these nucleotides on breakdown, they can also produce H3PO4. So we have discussed about the phosphoric acid as well. So many different types of acids are being produced directly through metabolism within our body. Along with that, some drugs or some toxins, they can also produce acids in our body. For example, the alcohol, the not the normal alcohol, the ethanol that is used for drinking, not that one. There is a toxic form of alcohol, which is methanol or methyl alcohol. Methyl alcohol can produce another acid called formic acid. This is called formic acid. Similarly, many drugs and chemicals and other substances, they produce lots of acids. So lots of acids are being produced in our body. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about this CO2? What if I tell you this is also an acid? Well, if you have studied from my previous videos, you might have understood that by definition, actually there are many definitions of acids, but one of the most common definition, according to that, acid is a substance that can donate a proton, I mean H positive ion in water or any aqueous environment such as blood, which is also mostly water. It is also an aqueous environment. So if we talk about CO2, it can get dissolved in water. So if we talk about CO2 inside water, it can dissolve, or blood as well, it can get dissolved in blood or water. And what it will do is that it will react with water, but very slowly. It will react with water to form what we call as H2CO3, the carbonic acid. Now normally this process is relatively very slow, but in our body we have an enzyme called carbonic anhydrase that speeds up this process and H2CO3 is formed. Now H2CO3 is a weak acid, but still it can release some H positive ions, some protons, they are released from it, and of course it also releases HCO3 negative, which is a weak base as compared to H2CO3. It's a very weak base. So this H positive, it means that CO2 indirectly is releasing H positive. So if we remove these intermediates, let me write down the reaction again. CO2 plus H2O. H2O is present in excess in our body. We have so much H2O, we don't have to even think about it. So it can form H2CO3, and this H2CO3 is itself an acid. HCO3 negative. Now if we remove this part, so overall we can write it like this. We can write it like this, that ultimately CO2 is producing some H positive. So CO2 is acting as an acid by the way of formation of carbonic acid. Actually carbonic acid is the real acid here. So because CO2 is forming the carbonic acid, many textbooks they simply say that CO2 is an acid or CO2 is an acidic gas. So that's the point. So now CO2 and carbonic acid, they have some luxury which none of the other acids have in our body. So we have talked about pyruvic acid, we have talked about lactic acid, we have talked about phosphoric acid, we have talked about sulfuric acid, we have talked about keto acids, we have talked about several different acids, but none of those acids have got some luxury which CO2 has got, and that luxury is that it can be quickly and easily eliminated by the way of our lungs. None other acid has this potential. So that is the power of CO2, that it can be easily eliminated. And how it is eliminated, let me tell you how. So this is peripheral tissue, let's suppose, and here, okay, here we have a huge lung. I am just drawing a part of that, and here we have some peripheral tissue. So here in the peripheral region we have a huge red blood cell, a part of red blood cell. Okay, let me complete this like this. So here what CO2 will do is that CO2 will, it is a small molecule, relatively small molecule. It can cross the cell membrane and it can come inside, it can come inside the red blood cell. Now here it can do two things, and it actually does two things. Some of the CO2 it can directly attach with the amino group of hemoglobin. So you know we have hemoglobin, the red colored pigment. So some of the CO2 can directly bind with the hemoglobin to form carbaminohemoglobin. But this is less important mechanism. The most important mechanism, less important statistically, I'm saying that most of the CO2 is actually not transported through this way, but most of the CO2 that comes here, it attaches, it reacts with water, as we have discussed already, under the presence of carbonic anhydrase, optimized by the presence of carbonic anhydrase that speeds up this reaction, and it forms H2 H2CO3. Now this H2CO3 will form H positive and it will form HCO3 negative. Now this HCO3 negative, it will go out of the cell, and to maintain the electrical neutrality another negatively charged ion should come in, and that is called chloride. Chloride comes in and this one goes out of the cell, and this H positive here, this proton, it can actually bind with this hemoglobin here. So this hemoglobin becomes HHB like this. And now what it can do is that now this same very RBC molecule, when it comes into the vasculature of lungs, here we have again this same very red blood cell. Now here what it will do is that it will unload from its hemoglobin. Okay, let me draw the hemoglobin. From its hemoglobin, now it will unload the directly attached CO2, and this CO2 will be exhaled out from your nostrils, right? Then it is also harboring this H, the proton H. Now it will also release this H, it will also release this H, and alkali will come inside. Basically this process will be reversed here. So HCO3 will come inside the cell, and of course chloride would go out. So this HCO3 will react with this H positive to form H2CO3. And of course we do not have any shortage of water in our body, so actually we do not need water here. Water will be produced here. So under the influence of carbonic anhydrase, what will happen, that CO2 will be produced, along with that water will be released. So essentially this process is being reversed here. So here CO2 and water reacted to form H2CO3, and but here the H2CO3 released H2O, water, and CO2, and again this CO2 is exhaled out. So you see that the interesting thing happening here is that the CO2, and by the virtue of CO2, H2CO3, the carbonic acid, both of them, they have this remarkable ability, they have this luxury that they can afford, that they can be exhaled out. So that is why CO2 and H2CO3, the carbonic acid, is special acid. It is not typical acid that is produced in our body. It is so special that it is called volatile acid, because it evaporates via the lungs. It has the luxury to be excreted out directly through the lungs, and that is a very quick process. So out of all the acids that we have discussed in our body, we actually classify the acids into two types. We have volatile acid, which is H2CO3 slash CO2, and we have fixed acids. We have fixed acids or non-volatile acids, fixed acids or non-volatile acids. For example, we have lactic acid, we have pyruvic acid, right? We have pyruvic acid, then we have keto acids, then we have sulfuric acid, then we have phosphoric acid. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, it is not just nucleotides and phosphoproteins, we also have phospholipids as well. So from phospholipids, the phosphoric acid is also produced. Now all these acids, they are not volatile, they cannot be exhaled out from the lungs, but instead kidney should do something. Either kidney should excrete them, or the lungs must convert them into some other substance, and those substance will be that then excreted out our body, mainly by kidneys. Some of them might have there might be some role of intestine. To be honest, I don't know much about it, but anyhow, these are not taken care of by the lungs. And because the volatile acid is easily taken care of by the lungs, it is produced in a huge amount in our body. We have about 20,000 to uh, 30,000, 20,000 to 30,000 milli equivalent of this H2CO3 that is produced per day. And compare this with fixed acid, it is only about 60 to 100 milli equivalent per day. It's very low. Compare this with this, it's very low, because it is quickly eliminated, it is not causing any problem. And that is why, if we stop breathing, or our breathing pattern, a breathing rate of breathing slows down, if we stop breathing, we might die very soon because of the absence of CO2. But if we breathe slowly, there is some problem with the breathing, then this might accumulate, the CO2 accumulates in our body, volatile acids accumulate, causing the respiratory acidosis. And that we will tackle in the upcoming lecture, the acid base disturbances. But the other acids, when they accumulate, they cause metabolic acidosis. Even the syndromes are different in case of these two types of acids. Of course, the formic acid and other acids that are produced, that are ingested or produced due to toxins, that are also fixed acids. They also do not have luxury to be exhaled out of our body by the way of lungs, right? So this was about the sources of acids. I hope you got some concept now. Coming to the sources of base, now there is a good news that it is not very important and there are very few sources of bases, mostly from plant based food. If you take lots of plant based food, then there are some chemicals that produce citrate, or they can contain actually citrate or malate and some other ions, some negatively charged ions that act as base. But most of our diets, they are rich in acids. Now even if we talk about plant based diet, plant based, whether it is plant based or animal based, it doesn't matter, it has the macronutrients. And you know what are macronutrients? The carbohydrates, which are very high in our foods, the carbohydrates, the fats and proteins, all these are high in our diet, and they ultimately convert into CO2. They form lots of CO2, which form H2CO3, which is a volatile acid. Now even if you eat plant based food, you are still producing CO2 and H2CO3, which are acids. But why I am saying that some plant based food, they have what we call as alkalizing effect? The reason is that although they also produce acid, but that is volatile acid that is easily taken care of by the lungs. But if we talk about the non-volatile acid, the fixed acid, then the plant-based food, they produced a net more fixed base as compared to fixed acid. So it is just about fixed acids and base, not about the volatile. Volatile, no matter what you do, you have to oxidize the food, you will have to produce the CO2 anyways, no matter what you do. But these plant-based food, they actually do minimize the acids, the fixed acids. Actually, they produced more of the fixed base. Actually, there is no volatile base. There is always fixed base. Now you may be wondering, what about ammonia? The amino acids, they are rich source of ammonia. Amino acids, they are rich source of ammonia, NH3. The NH3 is a strong base. So amino acids, they are producing strong base. Why don't they have alkalizing effect? Alkanalizing effect, whatever. It's a tongue twister. So anyhow, so ammonia, actually the ammonia that is produced in our body, it is usually in the form of NH4 positive, if ever, and it is in very little amount in our blood. It is a toxic substance. If the amount of ammonia it increases in our body, God forbid, you might die if you produce lots of ammonia, and it leads to coma. You might have heard of it in some liver diseases. Its level is increased. So what liver does is that, fortunately, this liver, it picks up the ammonia, which is anyways in the form of NH4 positive, or even if some small amount in the form of NH3, it does not matter. It quickly funnels this, the liver, it quickly funnels it through what we call as urea cycle, and it produces the urea, which is not very strong base or acid. It is more of a neutral substance. So but we will not go into that. But anyhow, the point is that ammonia, if even if it is produced in a very slight amounts, it is quickly converted into urea by our master chemist of our body, the liver. So it is not causing any problem when it comes to pH changes. It's not problematic in terms of acid and base. So I think that was all for today. I hope you learned something from this lecture. In the upcoming lectures, we will discuss the buffers. Buffer is the most important topic of pH and acid base balance. So that was all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great day. Goodbye.